Hey, I'm Teddy Burriss, your LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. I hear this all the time. I can't get to my blog. I can't get to my MailChimp account. I've lost my domain name for my website because I didn't set it up. An ex-employee set up our Facebook business page or our LinkedIn page, and that employee's gone, and now we can't get to it. I don't know how to get to my courses I have online. I can't get back into my MailChimp account, etc., etc., etc. This is the typical thing that happens when people don't manage their online assets appropriately. Yeah, I use the word assets. These are assets. Now, maybe they don't belong on a balance sheet, but they are assets just the same. All the accounts that we set up for all the different reasons for business and for our personal individual use online, they are assets. They're content, they're courses, they're engagement, they're networks. These assets include our stories. They include our online courses where we make some money. They include our podcasts where people listen to our stories, etc., etc., etc. They are online assets. And as with any other asset, we have to manage them. We have to take care of them. We have to protect them and ensure that we always have access to them. And often, people and businesses lose access to these online assets because they don't treat them as assets. Many years ago, I was working for a company out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and I used my Gmail account to set up their domain for their website. Didn't think anything about it. I left the organization, and 2 years later, I get someone frantically hunting me down because their website is no longer accessible, because I didn't transfer that asset to the company when I left. Recently, I was working with a company on their LinkedIn company page, and they didn't have access to it. The employee who set it up with their personal LinkedIn account, which is the way you have to do it, they left the company. And after they left the company, they refused to give someone else access to the page. Recently, for myself, I discovered I created courses on a fairly new online training site. I let it run for a year or two, paying attention to it, and it eventually didn't make me any money, and I just stopped looking at it. I pretty much discounted it. Well, they revamped their marketing, and all of a sudden, my Google alerts started saying that I had online courses that I didn't know anything about, pretty much had forgot about. I actually couldn't remember how to get back into that system because that was before the days when I started using LastPass. Look, we invest time and money in our businesses and as well as for us personally to create these accounts, to use these accounts for business or for personal pleasure or for our side hustles. And it's important that we think of them as assets. Organizations, in companies, they have an asset manager. This is someone who's responsible for tracking equipment and vehicles and software licenses and computer equipment and buildings and furniture, etc. But they don't treat these systems, these online platforms, these online accounts as asset, so that person doesn't concern themselves with it. I recommend that we look at all of these accounts that we have online as assets and start treating them as such. As individuals, we jump onto online sites all the time. We have people help us set up our personal websites, our podcasts, our social media sites, again, our side hustle pages. We have accounts on our banking accounts and our investment portfolios and eBay and Amazon and Shopify and Swappa and Craigslist and on and on and on. And we don't think of them as assets. We need to manage and track these assets as in a more deliberate way. Here are a few tips that I crafted together that are just a start to some new processes that can help us. As a business, when we create these accounts, we should list them. So we have them, again, in an asset listing. Maybe not a balance sheet asset, but an asset listing. Maybe we create a spreadsheet, segment them by business or by department, and require an annual review of all of these online assets so that we make sure we still have access to them and make sure that we don't lose access to them. Maybe as a part of employee separation agreements, we look and see what assets they have access to, which ones they're administrators of, and we make sure that we get that administrative role transferred to someone else and remove that employee from that access. Maybe what we do is we include a statement in the employee handbook in the context of managing these assets, managing these online accounts. As businesses, when we outsource development of these online platforms, websites, domain registrations, lead generation, e-commerce sites, social media pages, HR sites, online training, et cetera, that we make sure that when the project is rolling and before we complete the project with the outsourced company, that we transfer ownership completely to someone in the organization. Maybe to a standard business email address related to online accounts where we can. Another thought for businesses is to set up two-step authentication. So for all the administrative passwords to all these accounts, they're locked down as tight as we can so they don't get hijacked. Maybe as a business, we require our employees to where we can to use two-step authentication when they log in to our business online accounts, platforms, et cetera, et cetera. Last little business note is require an annual review of all of these online assets to make sure that the company has full ownership and full access, and those who no longer need access have been removed. Now, for individuals, here's a similar perspective, but maybe a little bit of twist to it. One is to use a password management tool. Now, I use LastPass. It works well for me on all of my devices, but there are other tools you can use as well. I am not an advocate of using a web browser password management system unless that web browser system is backed up every day or backed up consistently. A lot of people rely on their web browser to track their passwords, and then when their computer goes away, they lose those passwords. As an individual, we should be reviewing these accounts that we have so that we know that A, these are ones I still have and I have access to them. These are ones I have that I no longer want or need, so I need to remove myself from them, delete the account, and then I can remove it from my password management system and remove it from my asset tracking. Something else to think about as individuals is, again, two-step authentication. Every online account that you have that can be integrated with two-step or two-factor authentication, do that. It helps lock those accounts down so there's less opportunity for them to be hijacked. Another thought for individuals is to use a single email address for all of your online platforms. Now, if you're going to do that, you must, and you should do this anyway, use a unique password for every account. And the reason why you need to use a unique password for every account is that if someone hacks your Facebook or your Twitter, the next thing they're going to do is see if they can hack your bank or your financial accounts, et cetera, et cetera. Don't make this easy for them. Use unique passwords. Another aspect of asset management, online asset management for individuals as well as corporations, is to log into all of the important online accounts at the very least once a year so that you know that you can get to it, so that you know it still works. And if you discover a problem, you can quickly resolve that problem so you still have access to that important online asset. And just as with corporations, if you outsource domain registration, if you outsource email setup, e-commerce setup, Facebook or LinkedIn page or any other platform to someone else or to a business, make sure that as quickly as you can, you transfer the administrative rights, you transfer the administrative login to those different online assets to you, to your email address with your unique password. I recommend for individuals as well as for corporations, online asset listings, that you create a way of tracking all this information. Create, maybe the simplest way would be a spreadsheet with a list of all the accounts that are important to you, all the usernames that are important to you. Maybe don't put the password in that spreadsheet, so if you lose that spreadsheet or someone hacks it, you don't lose all your logins. Maybe keep your logins in a secure system like LastPass. But in that spreadsheet, also list the phone number of the company. List, is there two-step authentication? Maybe categorize it. Is it for business, personal, account, finance, etc.? And in that tracking system, maybe a spreadsheet, list when did you last review it? When did you last log in, so that you confirm that this online asset is still owned and accessible by you. Now, I'm sure I haven't given you all the different ways that you can manage these assets. I'm just trying to give you some ideas. But I'd like for you to take these ideas, adjust them, pivot them, add to them as you see fit, so that you, as an individual or a corporation, can manage your online assets so that you know you have access to them, so you don't lose them, so it doesn't create harm for you personally or an interruption in business for a corporation. You must own your online presence 100% and know that you have control over it. Don't lose access to these important assets.